This is Don Farber speaking on behalf of Vineyard Soft Corporation and Sage Software, and I'd like to welcome you to this presentation and demonstration of the Sage Alerts and Workflow solution. This demonstration will take approximately 20 minutes. Now, before viewing the current presentation, we strongly recommend that you have first viewed the product overview of Sage Alerts and Workflow, as it addresses typical business uses of the Alerts and Workflow solution and also addresses such topics as licensing and pricing. This presentation will be a product demonstration, and so let's get right to it. Alerts and Workflow is what's referred to as a server-based application. That means it's typically installed just on a single machine within your IT environment. Alerts and Workflow does not need a dedicated server. It can be installed on an application server, on your SQL server, or even on a workstation. Alerts and Workflow stores its data in one of three different formats, your choices of Microsoft SQL Server, SQL Express, or Microsoft Access. And Alerts and Workflow supports all Microsoft Windows operating systems. Now let's take a closer look at the technology itself. In my implementation of Alerts and Workflow, I'm having it monitor a number of different front office and back office applications, including my sales or CRM system, my human resources application, and a number of components of my ERP or accounting and manufacturing solution. Let's drill down into the accounts receivable branch of our ERP solution. Now, once you identify the various business applications that you want Alerts and Workflow to monitor, you're then able to identify specific business conditions referred to as events that we want Alerts and Workflow to monitor for and respond to. It's important to note that Alerts and Workflow operates in a purely automated environment. That is, once you identify the various business conditions that you want it to look for, and once you identify how Alerts and Workflow should respond to those conditions, which can be any combination of sending alerts, generating and delivering reports, and also executing workflow, you quite literally turn Alerts and Workflow on and walk away from it. It operates as a Windows service. I like to use the analogy of a corporate smoke detector. It's also worth noting that Alerts and Workflow comes pre-configured with a number of alert events, such as the ones you see currently, for all of the different Sage software applications. In fact, on average, Alerts and Workflow includes anywhere between 60 and 90 pre-configured business alert events for each Sage application. Let's take a look at a single alert event. A typical challenge that organizations face today is getting their customers to pay for their invoices in a timely manner. And so we're going to take a look at the event that identifies invoices that are overdue for payment. Now, every event in Alerts and Workflow has up to 5 components. The first of those components shows us whether or not the event is active. And in fact, in Alerts and Workflow, events can be checked on a periodic basis. Those events that are looking at very time-sensitive or mission-critical information can be checked on a very frequent basis, such as every few minutes or perhaps even hourly. Those events that are somewhat less time-sensitive can get checked on a less frequent basis, such as daily, weekly, or monthly. But let's stop next on the second component of an event referred to as its query, as it is the query that identifies the underlying business condition that we want Alerts and Workflow to check for. Let's take a closer look at this query. Whenever I introduce the query designer in Alerts and Workflow, the very first question that I get is the following. Don, just how easy is it for me as a non-technical person to create or customize these queries? The answer to that question is the following. You don't need to be a programmer, and you're not writing any kind of SQL syntax. What you do need is a familiarity with the database schema of the application that Alerts and Workflow is monitoring. In plain English, you need to know what data is stored where in an underlying application. Alerts in Workflow will automatically present you with a list of all of the tables in an underlying database, and we can see those tables from this list. At the lower part of this tab, we're able to identify the specific tables that we wish to retrieve data from for this particular query. Since we're looking for invoices that are overdue for payment, we've chosen to retrieve data from 3 tables: the Open Invoice table, the Customer table, and the Salesperson. If you do choose to retrieve data from multiple tables, then Alerts in Workflow presents you with an automatic table linking wizard to help you join or associate those tables with each other. But we're going to stop next on the Columns tab, as here Alerts in Workflow presents you with a list of all of the fields of data from the tables that you've chosen. And you're able to pick the individual fields of data or columns that you might wish to put into your alert message. Looking down at the bottom half of the Columns tab, you can see we've chosen to retrieve data from fields such as the invoice number, the invoice's due date, and the invoice balance. Now, Alerts in Workflow allows you to perform more sophisticated arithmetic calculations. For example, maybe you want to total up all of the overdue invoices by customer, by salesperson, or even by region. Alerts in Workflow allows you to do so simply by choosing the sum or summarize function. And likewise, in Alerts in Workflow, you can simply count the number of overdue invoices per customer, per sales rep, etc. Alerts in Workflow also provides an additional calculation wizard. So for example, if you wanted to calculate the number of days overdue that an invoice is, you could simply scroll this list down until you find the corresponding calculation, the difference in days between 2 dates. I have to make sure I have the right one selected here. And then Alerts in Workflow will walk me through the creation of that calculation. Let's go back to our main query design window and stop next on the Filters tab. Perhaps the most important tab in the entire query design process. This is where you're able to identify the particular conditions that we want this query to check for. For this particular query, we've chosen 2 filters. The first of those is looking at the invoice's due date. Since this query is to retrieve only those invoices that are overdue, we want to make sure that the invoice's due date is prior to or less than the current date. And everything here, once again, is provided to you in a plain English format. No programming necessary. This particular query has a second filter, which is looking at the invoice's balance. Naturally, we want to only look at those invoices that still have a balance due. So we're specifying that the balance has got to be greater than 0. Now, in Alerts in Workflow, you have the ability to specify Boolean or AND or logic. In this particular query's case, we want to look for both of these conditions, and so we've linked them together via the AND operator. Now, before we leave this Filters tab, I'd like to draw your attention down to the bottom right of this tab to the button called If Column Values Have Changed. Alerts in Workflow allows you to begin auditing any field in an underlying application. So if I want to know if someone ever changes the due date of an invoice, I can simply select that field, and Alerts in Workflow will immediately begin auditing the value in it, detecting whenever someone changes that field and capturing both the old and the new value of the field or fields that were changed. 2 last items I'd like to touch upon in the Query Designer. One is a sneak peek under the hood. What is Alerts in Workflow actually executing based upon all of the selections that I've made in the preceding tabs? Well, we'll show you if you wish to see it by clicking on the SQL tab. And the reason I like talking about what's in the SQL tab is the following. This is what you don't have to know what to do. Alerts in Workflow is automatically generating the SQL syntax based upon everything that you filled out in the preceding tabs. The very last tab is called Preview, and as its name implies, it allows you to test or preview the results of this query. We can make sure that we are, in fact, retrieving the appropriate records, and by looking at the invoice due date, I can see that, yes, indeed, these invoices are very overdue for payment. Let's now exit from the Query Designer and take a look at the remaining components of this event. The next component of an event is referred to as its deliverables, truly the content, the alerts that we're going to send to people. And as you can see, this particular event has alert messages configured to go out via a number of different methods, including email, fax, text message, instant message, and web dashboard. If we want to get a quick glimpse at the underlying alert message, it's simply a matter of putting our cursor right on top of the branch whose alert text we wish to view. If we wish to edit that text, that alert message, and are so authorized to do so, it's simply a matter of double-clicking on the corresponding branch. Now, in the email alert message, all of the fields of data that we can put into our alert are listed for us up at the top of this tab. Down on the lower part of this tab is the actual email alert message that's going to be sent. In Alerts and Workflow, this message can be configured in either plain text or HTML, and we provide a library of templates for you to choose from. You have a lot of flexibility in how that alert message is going to read. For example, if I'm going to be sending this alert message to my CFO, chances are that person wants to receive a single email that shows me a list of all of the invoices that are overdue for payment. However, if I want to send each of my sales reps a separate email, I want to send each rep a list of just their customers' invoices that are overdue for payment. And thirdly, I could even configure Alerts and Workflow to send the alert to the actual customer themselves, of course, listing just their invoices that are indeed overdue for payment. Let's go back to our main window to take a look at some of these other deliverables. Email, fax, page or text message, web browser. After webcast, you can see a deliverable called Report, AR Aging. Alerts and Workflow automatically includes the ability to dynamically generate and deliver relevant reports, such as our AR Aging report. In this particular case, we've specified that that report is going to be generated in PDF format, and we can choose how it's going to be delivered to the appropriate recipients, most usually as an attachment to an outgoing email. But take a look right after the reports deliverable, and you'll see a chart. Alerts and Workflow has the ability to generate graphic alerts because sometimes a picture is truly worth 1,000 words. So we can actually take a quick look at this underlying graphic alert. In Sage Alerts and Workflow, these graphic alerts can be generated in a number of different formats. And we're just going to jump down to the very bottom of this window and actually test the results of this bar chart. So we'll specify all invoices that are at least 20 days past due, and there is our resulting chart. This chart can be sent along within the body of an outgoing email alert, attached to an email, FTP'd, or even posted to a website. Let's exit from this particular chart and talk about the remaining components of this event. The next component of an event is its alert recipients, referred to as the event subscribers. This event has 4 subscribers. Everyone in my executive team are being notified via 3 methods: email, fax, and instant message. Myself, I've chosen to be notified via just 2 methods, but do note the final 2 subscribers for this event, referred to as dynamic subscribers. Alerts and Workflow is going to automatically notify the salesperson responsible for the clients who have overdue invoices. And perhaps most importantly, Alerts and Workflow is going to notify the customers themselves who have those overdue invoices. Please note that when it comes to subscribers, if you already have databases or tables elsewhere that store people's names, email addresses, mobile numbers, etc., you do not have to manually rekey this into Alerts and Workflow or even import it into Alerts and Workflow, as Alerts and Workflow will automatically read that subscriber data out of any table in any external database. Okay, let's drop down to the final component for an event, referred to as the event's actions. Now, this is an optional component of an event, but it gives you the ability to do more than just sending out alert messages, reports, charts, and the like. For example, if a customer has multiple invoices that are indeed overdue for payment, I might want Alerts and Workflow to go back into my accounting system and actually put that customer on credit hold. Likewise, If my organization is using a sales or CRM solution, I might want alerts and workflow to go back into that solution and actually schedule a phone call for the appropriate salesperson to make to that customer to encourage them to pay off those past due invoices. In alerts and workflow, the actions module includes a combination of wizard-driven and programmatic APIs that you can choose from. It also includes the ability to integrate with various social networking tools. In this particular case, we're having alerts and workflow create or post a Twitter tweet message. All right, let's back up our view a little bit and just touch upon a couple of other concepts before coming to the end of this demonstration. I mentioned that alerts and workflow can monitor the data in a number of other applications, including CRM or sales. And certainly, on the sales side of the house, nothing is more important than monitoring the status of open or pending sales opportunities. If we drop down another branch, we can take a look at what is referred to as cross-application monitoring, identifying conditions between multiple applications. In this particular case, we're having alerts and workflow look for one set of conditions within our ERP, or accounting and manufacturing system, along with a corresponding set of conditions within my sales or CRM system. So, for example, if I've got the same customer set up in both CRM and ERP, I don't want those customer records to be referencing a different sales rep. And so we can check for such a condition as that with this cross-application event. Likewise, I'd certainly like to know if any of my sales reps are creating new sales opportunities in my sales or CRM system for a customer who has overdue invoices within my accounting system. Again, cross-application monitoring. Also, alerts and workflow ships with a collection of what are called ERP or alert dashboards. Alert dashboards are dynamic web pages that are automatically populated with information that's critical to the success of your organization, because sometimes you just want to take a quick look at a window on your desktop to get a snapshot of what's going on within your daily business activities, and those dashboards provide exactly that. One last area of capability I'd like to touch upon, and that is something called job streams. Sometimes in your business processes, you have multi-step processes that need to get followed in a certain order. In alerts and workflow, those multi-step processes are referred to as job streams. As an example, you might have a purchase order process whereby a purchase order needs to get created and reviewed by certain people before it can get delivered to the appropriate vendor. Here we've got an example of onboarding or hiring a new employee. Because when we bring on a new employee, there are a lot of steps that need to get done. They need to get done by different people in a certain order, and certain steps cannot be started until preceding steps have been finished. Once again, referred to as job streams in Sage, Alerts, and Workflow. With that, let's go back to our main branches here. We'll take a look just to finish up with perhaps some sales order related events. And I'd like to wrap up by saying the following. Again, my name is Don Farber with Vineyard Soft Corporation, also speaking on behalf of Sage Software. We very much look forward to the opportunity to work with you and to have you try out the Sage Alerts and Workflow solution. And in fact, we encourage you to visit the website of alertsandworkflow.com. From here, you can get more information about the Sage Alerts and Workflow solution. You can download additional videos and documentation, and even download the live product itself, Alerts and Workflow, to try out for free for up to 30 days. As you're trying out the product, you have full access to our tech support department if you need any additional assistance or help. Once again, my name is Don Farber with Vineyard Soft Corporation. I thank you very much for your time today, and we look forward to the opportunity to work with you. Thanks again.